Welcome to Countryside. This is the last in the current series, John.
You've been seeing, talking to the man who's invented the new hoe, Simon.
Yeah, the Manx hoe, Alex Madrill. We'll be hearing about how he got it going because I went round and he showed me in use, and it looks such a simple device but so effective as well. And he's got good news that somebody's very interested in it from a tool manufacturing company. So
the man who gets the third one will be able to cry ho ho ho.
Father Christmas will get one, won't he?
He will.
And also, I took a trip around Milltown Estate because they were there testing the new hoe with the gardeners there. Paul Ogden, the estates manager, was there, showed me round and showed me the new areas that they've got there, and just showed me the bits that make the Isle of Man public and visitors alike so interested in a place like that.
But Milltown, Simon, is a very, very interesting place anyway, deep in Manx history. The historians will rave over Milltown. The people who live there, the Christian family, and it sits deep in Manx history, and it's lovely. I've yet to go and go through the house. I'd love to go through it and see it.
You've not been up to see the ghosts?
No.
You chicken.
William Doan and all that.
Yeah. But you've been talking to possibly a star in the future.
Yeah, and we say often, Simon, here in this programme, when we talk about young people, he is a young man. Callum Staley has been away at badminton at whatever level he's in at, but he's there. He's had that experience. He was telling the size of the place, the aura of the place, the people who come to watch, and they ride on the cross country. They ride right alongside the course that the seniors ride in the well-known badminton horse trials.
Yeah, and we were on the march at Andres. You were up drinking out of some very old crockery at the Andres Benevolent Fund. What was it?
It's their annual celebration. It's their anniversary on Ascension Day each year, and they parade with a band through the village, and all their members with their sashes, which are the original sashes. Those sashes, not just the crockery, Simon, the sashes that they wear are also over 200 years old. It's quite remarkable how they've preserved all that.
And it's wonderful to see that people are actually interested in keeping it going, isn't it, as well, because there's new blood in.
Yeah, and it started because, there were hard times when there was no health service in those days, and people relied on their neighbours and on the parish just to keep them alive, really, and to keep them fed and housed. And it stems from those days. And you're here saying that if the National Health Service doesn't book its ideas up, we might need them again yet.
Indeed. Well, sit back and enjoy this week's Countryside.
I talked to a young man who we believe to be only the second Manx person to take part in badminton horse trials, albeit at a junior stage. I talked to Callum Staley, and I began by asking Callum how it all began, where his interest in horses really started.
Well, when I was younger, my sister got a horse from my mum and dad for Christmas, and I got a quad bike from them. So I rode my quad bike and enjoyed my quad bike, but then I went along with my sister, and after seeing her on her horse, I asked mum and dad, could I get one?
And what did they say?
I went to Canay when it was a riding school, and I rode the horses there, competing as well, and then they decided that I was allowed to get one when Canay sold their...
So did mum and dad watch you riding at Canay then, and then decided that this is worth taking on a bit further?
I'm not sure. I think they saw my interest in it at Canay and then thought that it would be a good thing for me to begin doing.
So eventually you had your own horse?
Yes, yeah. I got a pony to start with from Canay when they sold the riding club school ponies, and then I progressed up and now I'm on a horse.
So you were into dressage, eventing and cross country even at that stage?
Yes, yeah, I was, yeah.
And when you got away then and you came up against riders from other parts of the country, how did you fit in there?
Okay, I've been doing well with British eventing, and then to get to badminton I qualified. It's a national competition and there's 14,000 people at horse and rider combinations that compete in B90 a year, which is British eventing.
Are they regional competitions then, are they?
There's events in different areas, and then if you come in the top 10% at a normal event, you qualify for a regional, and there's only around 10 regional qualifiers.
Was that your aim, obviously, then, to get to badminton?
Yes, it was. 2 or 3 years ago, we decided we'd try and get there.
What did it take, then, to get you there?
Yeah, a lot of practice and determination, really, and Angela Kennedy, my dressage instructor, has been helping, and the Isle of Man steam packet kindly helped with some of the fare to go, and Sue Kirkpatrick, when I qualified for badminton, let me use her arena, as we haven't got one where our stables are.
So now you've qualified and you're ready to go to badminton. What was the anticipation of that like? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was very nervous, and everyone, like my sister, booked the week off work to come and watch, and Mum was off. And
So when you were driving up to this place of excellence in horse riding and inventing and horse trials, what were your impressions when you first approached badminton?
I just couldn't believe how big it was. There was a lot going on, and first of all you see like the welcome to badminton signs, and then you can see where all the events take place, and then I walked the course and you could see in front of the house, and because I cantered straight past Badminton House.
Were the nerves starting to kick in a bit now?
Yes, I was very nervous because people had travelled to watch, and I was just very nervous. And then I got my dressage. I did my dressage and it went very well, and then I was looking forward to the rest of it.
So the dressage then, what was the next event you went to?
It was show jumping. The show jumping was in the same field as the horse boxes, and it was very windy. It was one of the windiest days they've had there. There was quite a few people having problems, and a few people eliminated show jumping, but it was just down to how much was going on in the wind, I think. The level I was competing at before I went, I qualified at 90, and then I went up to
90 what?
British eventing 90, so it's 90 centimetres the jumps. And then I was competing at British eventing 100 centimetres just to get ready, because my show jumping at the badminton itself was 100 centimetres, a level up to what I qualified at. So they were very up to height, and there was a lot going along. You have your dressage, and then if you get any faults, the mark goes higher, because the lower the mark you get, the better it is. So if you have a show jump down, you get 4 penalties, and then you get your cross-country marks as well.
You finished the show jumping, what was left next?
Cross-country, the main part of badminton, really.
So you finished the cross-country, and anything else? Was that the last event?
No, that was the last event, So we were just made up after that.
And when you finished that round then, Callum, you must have been sort of summing up in your own mind how the whole thing had gone.
Yeah.
And how did you feel?
Yes, I thought it went very well.
Better than you thought?
Yes, because I didn't get as nervous as I expected, and my sister helped me improve my show jumping throughout the winter, and Angela Kennedy helped me improve my dressage, so I was very pleased with the result.
So you've competed at badminton very successfully. What now?
I'm hoping to qualify for the championship again, just because it's so big, really. Either at the same level or the level above. I'd be happy with either.
When you say the levels, how many levels are there? How does it progress?
At British eventing, you start at 80, and then it goes all the way up to 4-star, where the professionals compete. For the grassroots, they do British eventing 90 and British eventing 100 level.
Would you ever like to become a professional?
I think I prefer it as a hobby more than professional. I quite like IT and photography, so...
It's some hobby.
Yeah, really good, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, a young man there set to climb the heights of horse riding, and already at badminton, which is a very prestigious sight, as we all know, and it's good to see our young people taking their place in the world of senior people, really, Simon.
Yeah, and it's been a fantastic couple of years. When you look at the success that the Manx people have had, Sue Denny, also Nicole Pimble, and also Yasmin Ingham. Yeah, so it's been a really good time for the Isle of Man.
We keep saying here, Simon, it is the young people of the Isle of Man that's really going to put this place on the map, and already they're doing it, and well done to them.
Yeah, a couple of prizes and badminton myself, John.
Yeah, you went on a horse.
No, on the court. Well, the Milltown estate in Lezayre has grown in popularity, with the general public being able to look round its mill ponds, the old mill wheel and the grounds and the flowers and trees in the area. I popped along to talk to the estates manager, Paul Ogden, and firstly I spoke to him about him and his gardeners trying out the new Manx hoe.
Alex Madrill brought Mr Trevelyan up to meet us a few weeks ago. They demonstrated these new hoes, an amazing piece of equipment really. They just look like wire hoops in various shapes, but we tried them and our gardeners tried them in our vegetable patch, and they do appear to be very efficient.
I suppose that's the factor that's going to help promote them in a way, where people who actually know something about weeding and gardening and have tried them.
That would seem to be the case. Speaking to Alex only the other day, he was saying that Mr Trevelyan's having a number produced by a company in Holland and is thinking of coming over here to have the launch. So we'd be very pleased to accommodate that and do the demonstrations. These things do appear unlike conventional hoes, which have a sharpish blade that can damage other plants or even the plants that you're trying to hoe around. These things seem to be very gentle, so they can brush against something delicate while still rooting out a weed.
Here at Milltown, it's renowned for people walking around the gardens in a lovely, peaceful, rural environment, Paul. You mentioned vegetable patches there.
Obviously, the bulk of our gardens are going over to flowers and planting of all sorts and a wide variety. I mean, we're standing here now in a newly created path area in our mill field with flower beds alongside our leat, making a very nice, peaceful place. But of course, we also have our cafe here, and we try and produce small amounts of specialised stuff for sale in there in our vegetable patch, which one of our gardeners, Adam, has taken under his wing and is really developing well.
What attracts people to the grounds here at Milltown?
I think you summed it up before in that it's a really nice, peaceful setting. You can hear the birds singing away around us. It's just beautiful grounds, very quiet, a very nice cafe, everything that people can enjoy during a visit.
We haven't got time to go into all the history of it, but there's a wonderful mill wheel and everything situated there. And you forget until you walk around the parts here where they've got this little stream and the sort of Holden Lake and everything. There's plenty of sort of things that were created a long time ago, which I suppose were unique in the day.
Well, I mean, up in Glen Alden, where we are situated, there were quite a number of mills going back hundreds of years. In fact, there's records that even on the site of our current watermill, there's been something there since about 12 or 1400. Obviously, the building that's there now is a lot newer than that, but even that dates back to the early 19th century. Yes, you're right, these features which are man-made, but today almost have an appearance of nature, like our leat here, which is feeding the mill pond. We've got a vast pond there that is a great home for the ducks, which then in turn feeds the water wheel. The water then carries on out through another leat, through our vegetable patch as it happens, and out back into the river. So sustainable energy from the word go.
Obviously the mill isn't in use now, but what was the main run of the mill?
It was a corn mill for grinding flour, very similar to the one at Kentraw that was running last weekend for the Open Mills weekend, so very similar to that.
How much looking after does this estate take?
It keeps us going, Simon. We've got 3 full-time gardeners. We've got a gentleman who's an octogenarian who comes in and helps us part-time, Michael. He's a real stalwart. We also have several volunteers who come in a day a week. In fact, we've got one here today, Richard, who's out cutting the grass. Another chap, Graham, comes and helps with all our forestry and woodland side. In fact, through his connections with the Woodland Trust, they've planted 60-odd trees in our woodland area only within the last few weeks.
Obviously surrounded by trees where you are, but I mean, there's been a lot of concern about larch trees and things like that around the Isle of Man. Has it managed to keep the gardens away from all the troubles?
Pretty much. We occasionally see the odd problem. We do keep an eye out for this ash dieback, as they call it. We've had 1 or 2 trees that we've lost to Dutch elm, but touch wood, other than a few minor hiccups, we've been relatively fortunate up to now.
The type of environment that you're in, does it give you the sort of freedom to introduce a lot more of the wild type of flowers than the normal typical garden type of flowers and plants you'd see?
Well, the idea is to try and develop a range of different forms of planting, different flowers, different types of tree. The ethos is to have what you would call, and this sounds awful, sort of a typical English country garden, although we're in the Isle of Man. So really what we want is a Manx garden with native Manx planting as much as possible, native Manx trees, obviously where the Woodland Trust come in. So that's what we're trying to do is develop a traditional style garden, but with a few quirks and tweaks in it, and nice sculptures and woodland features.
Paul Ogden, very proud of the Milltown estate there in Lezayre, and plenty going on for this summer as well.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, we've just heard Paul Ogden talking about his gardeners trying out the new Manx hoe. Well, to tell me more about it, why it's so special, and the fantastic news that it's gone into production, I spoke to the inventor, Alex Madrill, and put it to him that it must give him great delight to see it on the shelves nearly.
Absolutely delighted, really. It started out as a bit of a help in the garden, too busy, too many weeds, like most gardeners, and after a while I thought it had to have a commercial value. So I did a lot of research on the web and found a company called Lazy Dog Tools in northeast Yorkshire, and they specialise in handcrafted stainless steel.
So they sort of had a look at it. Did you just describe it to them first or show them some pictures?
I think I described it to start with and asked if they were in any way interested, and they were interested, but I guess they were a bit sceptical about it. I then sent them a homemade prototype, and they were more than interested then because they tried it out in their own garden to start with and with some friends.
It does look so simple, and I've seen it in action just now before the rain has beaten us, and it's marvellous how the weeds stick to it. I mean, is there a strange secret behind it?
Well, it is very simple to look at, but it's sort of quite complex in its makeup, in that the weight of wire is critical, the angle that the head of the Manx hoe is lined at is important, and the actual rounding on one side, it's asymmetrical across it, and pointed on the other side gives it quite a variety of uses. But the important thing is that it takes the weeds out. In most cases, as you saw, about 90% of them are just folded over the wire and can be tapped and dumped.
Where a conventional hoe with the sharp edges, we've all used them, well, older generation, and you're scratching alongside, you can easily cut them because they're sharp. Then you've still got to bend down and pick the weeds up, haven't you?
Well, that's very true, and if you push for time, you tend to work a lot faster, and the faster you work, the more likely you are to damage your crops. Now with this, as you saw there, I went along a 25-foot row of lettuce in under 30 seconds, and I can weed between the rows in 3 25-foot rows in about a minute and a half, say, and then, as you saw too, it has the facility for picking up individual weeds between the lettuce without actually damaging the lettuce.
Because you did a lot of the in-between ones actually pushing the hoe away from you, which was interesting.
I think the secret of success is that you can either push this or pull it. The main thing is either to push it away from the plants or pull it away from the plants. Once you've located where the weed is, you just put the weeder down on it and remove the weed and the root. You can operate it with one hand, so somebody with some sort of a disability can manage it. My grandson, who's only about 6, can make a good shot of it as well. So it's open to all, really, from the very able to people that are not so able, and it's useful in the flower garden, in rockeries, in the greenhouse, because you can reach places you couldn't reach otherwise. And it's also, as you've seen, I've got 3 tennis court areas of veg. It certainly covers a big area very, very quickly. And I suppose for a commercial gardener, time and money are inextricably combined together.
It's such a rare thing, I think, in this modern day, I think, for something to get picked up like this. So you must be immensely proud, really, that something, and the name of it as well.
Well, Manx hoe is a good one, really, but I am pleased, but I just thought, well, if it goes nowhere, kind of too bad, but all my gardening is organic, and this is a big feature of it. Anybody that's producing organic crops would find this very useful too. I really do know it works, and I can prove it, so that way I was pleased, yes.
Alex Madrill with that simple but so effective Manx hoe, and telling me all about that. And if you want more details on that, it's just at the Lazy Dogs Tools is all you need to go to. You can find out more about it. But it is wonderful that something like that, something so simple, John. You've seen the pictures here in front of you.
I'm
now.
a bit disappointed with that trade stamp. Hoeing is not for lazy dogs. It can be hard work, but I think what Alex has stumbled on will make the job an awful lot easier. It'll take the back out of it, the back-breaking work out of it anyway.
Yeah.
And isn't it, the simple things are always the most effective.
An awful nice man as well.
Quite remarkable. On Ascension Day, which has just passed last week, I went to Andros to join the people there celebrating the anniversary, I think it was, of the Andros Benevolent Society. It's now in its 203rd year. I talked to Norman Tier, the past secretary, and also to John Strickett, the present secretary.
It's difficult to say, but I put it down to the perseverance of the members. They wouldn't let it die. It's as simple as that.
Is there pride in the parish community?
I think so, yes, but I think it's typical of the Isle of Man generally that we're a fairly conservative people and like to keep things going as long as we can.
It would be a farming parish, wouldn't it, in those days?
Oh, indeed.
And was that the strength of it?
I think so, yes. The founding members were all farmers, landed people. We still have a copy of the first register which shows the founding members, but unfortunately...
Really? The very first?
The very first, yes.
That's over 200 years ago.
Indeed. Well, it is only a photocopy. The original's in the museum, as many of the Society's books are.
Now, you've been a past secretary. You were a secretary for a long time.
Yes.
What were the duties of the secretary? What did you have to do?
It hasn't really changed. Basically, the most important duty, I think, was the roll call on Ascension Day, when we used to stand outside the gates of the church hall and call out the names of members and so that they could take their place in this procession.
How did one become a member?
Basically, your name was put forward. It's very much a family thing. Most members today are the sons of former members, and the juvenile branch, again, are sons of existing members.
One of the things that I like to think we're good at now is community life, but it seems to have just faded in recent times. Should we be encouraged by the fact that you've kept this going in Andros?
Absolutely.
Very much so. Yeah.
It
is very much so, John. I mean, the Society's rules demand that members march to the church wearing their sashes, which you saw tonight, accompanied by a band. Ordinary members had a plain white sash. The officers had different sashes depending on their rank, which is quite interesting. The president had a sash with 3 stripes. My particular sash had 3 blue stripes. Then the committee members had 2 red stripes. And then the juveniles, they also have their sashes. And it's interesting that they've kept up this tradition. This Society's China, for argument's sake.
Well, I was coming to that, but just before you leave the sashes, you're not going to tell me that they're the original sashes, are you?
Most of them are, yeah. Some of them have been replaced and what have you.
Been replaced.
When Norman handed over lots of the records to me, there was a bag full of coins and tokens, which they're on display tonight, which I've put in a plastic box, and we're going to have that valued and tidied up. And there's about 21 tokens from 1812.
At least 1812.
Yeah,
But Norman, you must have been very proud to have held that office then in such a long-standing tradition, such as the Benevolent Society.
Oh, indeed, yeah. Without a doubt.
Were there long-serving secretaries before?
Yeah, indeed. There was reference made tonight to... You'd said, John, that you've been in contact with a Mrs. Goldsmith.
Mrs. Goldsmith, yeah.
Yeah. Well, her husband's father was secretary of the club for something approaching 45 years. So I would have had a few years to go had I not retired 2 years ago to match him. But no, he certainly was in office for a very long time.
John, you mentioned the China. I've been privileged and invited. I didn't come. I came to do this recording. Invited into tea with you. But I must say, I was glad to put my cup down without the handle coming off or something.
Well,
it just must be so precious.
It is, yeah. I've been tasked with the job tonight to have it looked at, valued, replacement value, and we may end up having to buy another set but we don't know yet until we've had it all evaluated.
You talk about replacement, it couldn't be replaced.
No. Well, it'll be stored and will be replaced with another set possibly.
How old is the china?
It's 200 and...
Well, we had it valued by Mrs. Agnew Somerville some years ago, and she reckoned it was 1820, made in 1820.
But it's been in public annual use.
Oh, it was. And when,
how on earth has it survived?
Good question. But it was during the Andrews Sports, before they packed up, the club rooms, which were the old church hall, would be open all day. The ladies, the tray holders, would be serving tea to the general public on the society china. So yes, it is amazing that it survived as long as it has.
Is this part of Manx culture that we would like to see the world know about?
Definitely. It's just trying to keep the tradition going, you know. I mean, that's why I was asked to take over from Norman, and everything's in tip-top condition, and all the files and all the emails now, you know.
So not only are we celebrating the past, you're actually now beginning to look forward to the future. Is it secure?
Yes, definitely. I hope so, yeah. We've got some good, real, hardcore members, and we've got some young lads coming through, as they say in football terms. And yeah, they're very enthusiastic.
And we've had some very generous donations too.
Really?
We have.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So the spirit is still there?
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, there, John Strickett taking over the reins as secretary of this historic movement in Andrews Village, and also to Norman Tier, who, as he said, was secretary for 30 years.
Wow, it's a good stint, and it's marvellous to see, because they sort of march through the village and have everything like that, isn't it? And it's a wonderful
it was
event.
tremendous for me, Sam, because I was invited to come in and have tea with them and to drink out of those.
How old are they?
Well, they're the same age as the society.
Yes.
I can't believe that they would wash those up every year and they would all still survive.
There'd be a silence if you dropped one, wouldn't there?
I was just glad to get your cup put down, Sam, without the handle coming off.
Yeah, you'd be used to the big mug handles and all with your hands down, wouldn't they?
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, that was this week's Countryside. Hope you enjoyed it. And the last in this current series as well, John. It's been a pleasure as always.
Well, it is, Simon. And it's a tremendous privilege, you know, to talk to the people, you know, with the ideas, with the stories to tell, and particularly to bring in the flavour of the countryside to a much, much wider audience.
All right, John, it's been a pleasure. That's it for this series of Countryside. We'll see you on the next one.